You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of our Be Strong, Be Positive podcast right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always, delighted to be doing this show. Really pleased to welcome Jen McMillan, guest this week. So a pleasure to welcome you on, Jen. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
How are you, all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, yeah. It's been crazy times, isn't it?
Can imagine. Yep, that is strange times.
What you kind of been doing lately? Like how you been keeping busy?
I've just been totally focusing on uni, and I've been going out walks and running and doing home workouts, and that's about it really. Same day, every day.
Yeah, definitely. We'll make a wee start. I just want to say at the start of the show that this is a podcast we've been really keen to do. It's a subject that means a great deal to me, and I know it means a great deal to Jen as well. It's important to me, and I know it'll be for Jen as well, to try and be as respectful as possible regarding this subject. So we might be a bit nervous to start off, but I imagine in future weeks we'll get it going. But first of all, I just want to ask you, Jen, just how you kind of been during coronavirus? Like, have you been kind of feeling? How you been kind of feeling regarding it all?
At the very start, I have to say I struggled a lot. My anxiety triggers with a change of routine, and so obviously as soon as we went into lockdown, I lost my routine completely.
Yeah.
I was still at uni when we went into lockdown, and so I kind of had that as a focus, but when I finished for the semester, I had no idea what to do with myself. I was like, oh my God, I've got all this time to fill during the day, so I was like very overwhelmed. I ended up starting my own little business called Perfect Pooch, and what I did was I made dog accessories and face masks, and that lasted the whole of summer. And then I went to work at Creatara, which is where I work seasonally.
Yeah.
So that was fine. And then I went back to uni, so I was kept busy for a little while, and then obviously restrictions started to lift and stuff like that, so things got better. And then when we got put into the lockdown, what was it, Boxing Day?
Yeah.
I surprisingly was actually okay until maybe just after New Year, and I was like, oh my God, what's happening now? Like, you've been looking forward to Christmas and New Year, and then once that's passed, it's like you're in some sort of limbo. So I was like very overwhelmed, didn't know what to do with myself, just struggled, to be honest.
Yeah. Obviously, you started the vlogging as well. I just want to say, like, you done a video a couple of weeks ago talking about your own kind of experiences. I just want to say, massive kind of respect for you for doing that. It was brilliant to watch. Really enjoyed it. Really interesting. But just if you don't mind as well, just talk to us a wee bit about why you kind of decided it was the right time to do something like that, like to kind of reveal how you were feeling.
Yeah. So it's something I've been backwards and forwards about for a while, about doing that video. I think I started thinking about doing it in October time, and I just kept talking myself out of it. I was like, I can't do it, can't talk about it, because obviously it's really difficult for me to relive that whole experience while discussing it. And then I thought, it got to January time, and I thought, now's the time to do it. Everyone's struggling again. It might help people to have someone to relate to, especially someone local. So that's what I did. I was like, right, we're going to sit down and just go for it. And that's what I did. And I revealed every single detail, stuff that I hadn't even told some of my friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it right. So that's what I did.
Yeah, we went to the same school together as well. Like, what was things like for you at school? Like, I'll get into detail about my experiences at school, but what was the experience like for you at school?
So to start off with, so I come from Coyleton, and Kyle Academy isn't Coyleton's catchment school, so there was only a few of us that came from Coyleton, but all of my friends went to Ayr Academy. So for what, 11-year-old child, that's really daunting, big change.
No, definitely.
And that's what triggered my anxiety. So for me, I remember I used to go into school every single day and just cry every single day because I didn't want to be there. I felt horrendous, and it was just a very overwhelming experience. And obviously, you know what kids are like. Kids are cruel. So if you're a wee bit different, they're not going to want to hang about with you. They want to be the cool kids. So that made it difficult for me to kind of make friends and gel with a lot of people. And then a couple of years in, I got some counselling. I started to feel better. I was a bit more confident. I got to know people more, and I made a good group of friends. And then for the rest of school, I was absolutely fine. I felt normal as what you could explain. Basically felt myself, and yeah, that was about it really.
Yeah, as you say, school is quite daunting. I know myself. I'm the first to admit I didn't deal with school very well at all. Like I was just, what's the phrase? Just so somebody used to say to me, right, and it was quite random. You don't seem as if you like people, and I don't think it was ever to do with that. I just think I didn't. School just wasn't my environment. See if now, like after school, see how much different I've been able to like deal with people, like the way they, like, you know, it's like kind of kids. You'll say kind of mean things and things to each other and things like that. And I didn't go it well in the slightest. I'm the first to admit that. But it is daunting. School is daunting, and
absolutely.
they tell you as well that school, your education comes first. But see if you're not getting on well in the playground and not getting on well after school times, it's of course it's an effect. It's just it's a weird place, and it's a different environment. Did you ever plan for what happened when you left school, like what you were going to go and do?
Yeah, so I actually knew from when I was in primary 7 that I wanted to go into fashion, which is so strange for a kid that young knowing exactly what they want to do. So that was more or less my focus the whole of school. And I decided in 5th year that I wanted to go to Heriot Watt and Gallus Shields, which is a textile school.
Yeah.
So that was my focus, do well in exams, get a good portfolio. So I did that, I got in, I went there. And as I said before, change is what triggers my anxiety. So I was like, right, this is going to happen. Prepare yourself. You're probably not going to feel great. And I surprised myself. I went down there. I moved in, was fine until Christmas. And then that's when your timetable changes for the next semester. And I ended up being in longer. I ended up being in from Monday to Friday, whereas before I was in Monday to Wednesday. And that totally triggered a massive anxious breakdown for myself. And I really was not coping. I was home every single weekend. I was crying on a Sunday, not wanting to go back up. My mum was going to come up and stay with me. I was like, I can't do this. But I finished the semester, and then I ended up just dropping out. I was like, nah, I can't be there for another 3 years.
And what was, see, when you kind of dropped out, like what was going through your mind at that point? Like, was it just constant worry about what was next?
Yeah, so I was like, obviously this is what I've been working towards for years. So I didn't have a plan B. This was my only plan. And I thought, what am I actually going to do? And I looked into transferring to Glasgow Caledonian, which is where I am now, but they didn't do transfers. You had to start from square one again. So I was like, oh my God. So I was working in the local pub at the time, and I was doing it every Thursday and Saturday night, I think it was. But other than that, I was just at home doing nothing. And obviously, as I'm sure you know yourself, sitting doing nothing is not good for anyone.
Definitely.
And that totally had an effect. But I was getting counselling again through the NHS this time, which was great. The woman was fantastic. And I decided around Christmas time that I was going to apply for a short course at the college. They did a fashion design kind of access course. So I did that, and that is the best thing I have done ever, because it provided me with so many skills that I hadn't had before. And I learned to sew, I learned to pattern cut, I learned like CAD, and all of those skills set me up to then apply for the course I'm in just now, which is fashion design with business at Glasgow Caledonian.
Brilliant. And obviously we'll touch on like school. Like we'll go back to school for a wee bit, but what was your kind of favourite subjects? I know you spoke a bit in the video about some subjects kind of made you feel really, really bad when you were going for them.
So I'm a sporty person. However, when it came to PE, I used to have a panic attack before PE, because the way always would be like, the teacher would be like, all right, get into groups, and nobody would want to be in my group. So for me, I was like, oh no, like I can't do this. So that was embarrassing for me. I used to feel embarrassed when they'd be like, get into groups and everyone would avoid me. Weirdly enough, I hated maths, but my teacher always made me feel so supported. I remember I had that first period on a Monday morning in first year, and I would go in and I'd be like, right, I've got maths, I can calm down and I can focus on the work, because there was no group work, you have to work silently. So that was good. I loved art, obviously. And I think that's the only subjects that I can really remember that stand out to me.
Yeah, I had a wee hanging as well when I was at PE. I like PE because obviously football, I was into like everything like that, but we were doing rugby one day, and somebody had said to me at the start, and they were probably joking, right? And they said, we're gonna go for you in the scrum, and we're gonna go for you in the game of rugby and all that. And I refused to play rugby for the rest of the time I was at school because of that.
No.
I know, but that was just me. Like I was just like, I can't. I don't like because I'm not terrified of getting touched, but I don't like it. I don't like getting like somebody going for me or anything like that, and that always stuck with me. Like now looking back, you do feel a bit kind of silly about it, but at the time I remember thinking like I felt horrible about that. But
me and my friends were discussing this the other day. We were looking back at old messages, like, you know how when you sometimes scroll back when you're in first year and you look at the silly messages to send. So we were sitting doing this, and we were so mean to each other. But we were like, why were we like that? But it's because when you're that age, school is your whole life. You don't see the bigger picture. But as you get older, you mature and you've got other things going on. So you start to realise, okay, that wasn't really that big of a deal. Like, that's not very nice. Like, it's things like that. It's hilarious to think about how, I don't know, like how school is everything when you're younger. Like, you've got to be the best, you've got to be the most popular, and when really it does not matter.
And that's what it was about, like, as well. Like, when you say, it's interesting to say that you thought a lot about what other people thought of you, and it's weird now, like thinking back, like you didn't. Now looking back, like you shouldn't have cared. Like nobody like should. It's think of it how you feel yourself. I was more worried anyway about what other people thought of me. And it's school as well. Like it's interesting you touch on that. Like I used to love music. But if I told people at the time I liked music, you weren't getting the best reception.
Yeah, it had a stigma about it, didn't it?
And it wasn't like I don't know if you remember it as well. I used to like get asked to like, you've got a really good singing voice, can you sing in the school concerts? And I was like, nah, don't really want to, but at the end of the day I done it and loved doing it, and it's something I would love to go back and do one day, like something like that. But at the time I remember it wasn't the best conversation topic. It was, but again, that's your days at school as well. Like I know you're quite interested to touch on like what you had after school. Like, did you kind of keep close with your group of friends for school when you left?
Yeah, I'm still really good friends with some of them now. That's who my group is.
Yeah.
And I feel like the ones I'm friends with now are probably the ones I'm going to be friends with the rest of my life. Like although I'm polar opposite to some of them, we just have a good understanding of what each other like and what each other don't like, and we just get on really, really well, and it's great. And they are so supportive with obviously my anxiety, and like, for example, I don't particularly enjoy nights out. I've got to be really in the mood for one, because drink can make me anxious. So I would quite often make excuses about not going. I'd be like, oh, I'm working, or I've got plans. But eventually I came clean to them, and they are totally fine about it. They understand, but they'll still invite me every single time, and they'll encourage me to try and come to prees just to see them. And they're so lovely about it, which is great, I think, because it makes me feel so much more comfortable rather than having to lie to them about having other plans just because I didn't want to go.
Yeah, and obviously leaving school as well, for me it was one of the kind of worst times as well. Like obviously losing my mum right at the stage I just left school. So like going through that, like at the time, school was the last thing in my mind, and it's weird because it was just at the time of the six year exams and things like that, and I was kind of thinking. I remember a couple of days after it happened, I'd looked and it was a music exam like the next day. And maybe me thinking, I need to go and do that. And you're not in the right frame of mind. And I remember folk saying to me, why are you here? I was like, because I'm sitting in the house losing my mind. And that's how I felt. And like, I dealt with that probably the wrong way. And it's probably the reason I probably didn't leave school. Or not that's not the reason I left school with. I didn't try much in 6th year. What were you like in 6th year? Were you pushing for
try hard?
Yeah, I was the complete opposite.
I was that person.
And
I just, do you know, I was a person that would cry if they got a B, do you know, that way? Like,
Aye.
everyone's like, but you did so well. And I'm like, not good enough. Do you know, that way? And I remember I did advanced higher art, and I was like, I need to do wellness. And I got a C, and I was absolutely devastated. Never had a C in my life. And I was like, this is the end of the world. But it really wasn't. But do you know, that way? It's just,
yeah,
oh, I was raging.
I started 6 year and I was kind of thinking, right, I think I was doing 3 hires or something. I was like, if I get these 3 hires, I can probably go to uni. Wasn't the big thing for me. I wasn't kind of focused on you. I probably could have gotten, if I'd really tried, I could have probably done it. But again, school, when I gave up every school kind of 6 year, I just get kind of scunnered with it, and just probably the way like things that I had a lot of anxiety. I remember one day there was something. I mean, I used to be probably not helping myself. Sometimes I wouldn't help myself and would open my mouth, and I probably should have kept it closed and maybe not start fights, but certainly not stop them. And a couple of times I did get into these situations, but I remember one day just locked myself in the toilet and for like a full hour just to get away from that situation.
Sometimes,
and that was horrible. It was looking back, it was a horrendous time. But
I think it's a shame that schools don't have somewhere for people to go just to remove themselves from a situation. Like, you've got to be with everyone, what was it, in the lunch hall or outside, but there's not any sort of room just to go and take 10 minutes, do you know, that way? And I feel like that would actually be really, really beneficial for a lot of kids, especially when sitting exams. Like, I know myself, after, I think it was a maths prelim, higher maths prelim, terrible at maths, and it's hard, isn't it? And I struggled, and I actually, oh God, don't, that takes me back.
Yeah, horrible.
I know. And I remember I did terrible, and I cried through the whole thing.
Right.
And the invigilator came up and literally didn't even place the box of tissues on my table, chucked it down in front of me. So it brought everyone's attention to me. And I was like freaking out. I was embarrassed. I had a panic attack. And then after it, somebody went to me, oh, it's only a maths prelim, like, because they were so chilled out. But to me, that was massive, and I freaked out. And I remember I went like that with a chair. Like through it, and I was like, oh my God. But do you know, situations like that is where people need 10 minutes to go and calm down and gather their thoughts, but I didn't have that, so I've reacted badly, and it's made me look like the idiot. Do you know, that way?
Yeah, they were so daunting, the exams. I remember going into the exams and you were absolutely terrified of, like,
I know,
even a wee noise. I remember somebody's phone went off sitting next to me and I couldn't stop laughing.
Oh,
but I got the biggest stare in the world from the invigilator because I'd started laughing. And
so it made you look guilty.
Made me look guilty, but it was hilarious. But the problem with them as well is you were off at the time for 7 weeks. Like, you would have exams and you wouldn't be there for 7 weeks, and you'd be getting it. That's probably the wrong attitude. Probably why I didn't do well. Didn't do too well at school my last year. But you were in the attitude of, right, I'm going to just sit up all night and do nothing, play Xbox and chill. When you probably should. I probably should have been studying, but again, you get into the exams and it was just a completely different ball game. I felt anyway. But see, obviously, when you left school and kind of moving on, like, was your family really supportive of you with what you were dealing with? Like, did you make it open to them kind of straight away how you were feeling?
So my mum and dad knew I'd been struggling since I started school, because obviously as a child I didn't know what was going on with myself. So I would tell them, I don't feel good. Why do I feel like this? And they're the one, they put me through private counselling to begin with, so they were really supportive. So I'd actually just gotten into the habit of talking to my mum and telling her every single time I didn't feel good, which helped me and her build a really great relationship. And I was really lucky with that I could just go and talk to her whenever. So as soon as I started to not feel good with uni, I told them straight away. I was like, I can't lie to them, I have to tell them, especially because I was so unhappy, and they knew, they could see in me that I wasn't enjoying it and how stressed and overwhelmed I was. So I remember having the conversation with them, like, I don't think I can go back. It was Isaac who spoke to my mum first and was look, I don't think she's coping to it, because I was scared. I didn't want to disappoint them because they were paying for all uni and accommodation and everything, and they were like, look, if you're not enjoying it, don't go back. There's no point, because you don't want to get halfway through a year and then have to drop out and then you're stuck. So it was a lot to think about, but they supported me completely with my decision, which was great.
And were you worried about like the pressure of that, like making that kind of decision, like if they would think, if kind of people would think it the wrong way, and were you worried about that?
Absolutely. There's actually a bit of a stigma about dropping out of uni as well, I feel. And I remember I dropped out, and honestly, I think about half of my year group that year dropped out of uni or changed courses or whatever, and it's so much more common than people think. And I felt like the family disappointment. Do you know that way? I was like, see, because I'd grown up being like, I have to be the best, I have to do the best. For me, that was a massive thing, and I was like, I'm the only person in my family that's dropped out of uni. But it's not a bad thing. It just means that I could make better decisions now that I've chosen a course that I actually like.
And what were your favourite kind of memories? Like, see, when you were like, obviously you done the vlogging as well. I just want to touch on that quickly. Like, what were your favourite? See, like going the trips and kind of documenting them. Was there some of them that stood out, like just brilliant times?
What, the holidays?
Yeah. Was going on holiday like a relief for you, just to get away for kind of situations here?
Absolutely. I love going on holiday. It's something that I've grown up doing with my family every single summer. Took it hard last year when we couldn't get away, obviously, and then I've started exploring. Like, so normally me and my family would go on like a kind of beach holiday, and then when I started going out with Isaac, we started going to city breaks, and I found a love for going around cities and seeing different places. So that's kind of our thing that we do. We went to Rome, we've been to Prague, been to Skye up north, which was amazing. Meant to go there this month, obviously that's been cancelled. So I feel the other morning I actually woke up and was like, I am craving that way where I'm going down to the pool, getting ready to go down to the pool and chill out all day. And I think a lot of people will feel the same, that they need a holiday more for the mental break from the same four walls every single day.
Yeah, we were on holiday when this all kind of started, and we got sent home early. But I just remember thinking when we were away how relaxing it was just to get away, because work was horrible. There was some things going on kind of outside work and things like that, and it was just getting away and just getting it, like putting your phone away for an hour. It was such a massive relief. And again, we can look forward to that. But we did actually we opened the floor to some questions. I know did you get a couple of questions as well about?
Yeah, I got one.
Are you good to ask it, or?
Let me just get it up. So I got asked, what's your best coping mechanisms? So that's actually my next YouTube video, which is going up tomorrow. So I filmed an anxiety tips. I've kind of grouped it into 3 sections. So there's like ones you can do anywhere, ones that you kind of need to be at home for, and then ones that you can more or less spend your whole day doing. So the ones that I use personally, I use breathing techniques, which I know loads of people say, take a deep breath, and everyone's like, oh, but it actually works if you focus on it. I don't know if this is maybe a good thing, but I try and keep myself as busy as possible. See, if I know I'm having a bad day, I'll jam pack my day with things to do.
I'm the exact same.
Because it stops your mind from going. Do you know that way?
Definitely.
So that's what I would do, or exercise or a big walk. That's my best tips, to be honest.
How much are you enjoying like walking and running lately? Like, I know it's been a massive. Not been running at all. I'm not in the position to do that yet. But walking, see, just getting out a walk and getting away from being in the obviously being in the house, and I've probably been as busy as I've ever been. But see, just getting a walk for a couple of hours just to get a clear head. It's actually such an ease in your mind. How do you feel about it?
I feel the exact same. I think I've stopped taking my phone out with me.
I'm doing that shortly.
Good feeling.
Yeah,
it's great, isn't it? And I think like you don't realise how good the walk is for you mentally until you get back from the walk and you're like, oh, I feel so much more relaxed now. Like that was actually good. Me and Isaac usually go out a walk maybe just about every single day. We go a 5k, so it takes about an hour, and we take the dog, which is good. And then I started running, I think, in summer. Then I stopped because the weather got terrible, and then I thought I'm just going to start this again. And so you just getting like your heart rate up. It's so good, and it's the feeling afterwards when you've completed the run, you're knackered, but you feel good.
Yeah. See, just before we go any further, who was responsible for the video of the dog at Christmas with was it the light bulb? Was it a light bulb? That was
the Rudolph, the Rudolph costume.
Aye.
That was Isaac. That was not me.
I love that.
It was a wee shame. He was raging at us. It's funny.
You see, like getting a dog as well. It's not something I can ever do. I'm not a massive fan of dogs, which will probably be a surprise to a lot of people. But I don't know why. I just never have been. But see, like having a dog, how much a relief is that as well?
It is so good. Do you know, having Gus gives you a purpose. Can I get up every morning, and it forces you to go out and walk. You can't not take him out because he's a big dog. He needs exercise.
Yeah.
So that's good. And he's the neediest dog ever, but he just loves to cuddle you. So we'll wake up in the morning, and as soon as he hears you moving about, he's up on the bed and he's planted in between us, cuddling into us, and he's hilarious. And you know, that way he totally lifts your mood without even like him having to try. Do you know, that way just seeing him and he's so excited to see you. It's really good. It's really lucky.
And obviously, as well as that, well, yeah, I know you were interested to talk about gambling. Just touch on that a wee bit. I know you were keen to talk about that.
So, me and Isaac have been talking about this a lot recently. He's not a stranger to the gambling world, and we think that, well, I've personally seen on Twitter quite a lot recently some young boys who have came forward about having a gambling addiction and how much they've struggled. And I feel like with the current lockdown just now, that I can't say a lot about it because I don't have a lot of experience, but I think with boredom and maybe stress, or just like stress from working from home, that people maybe more like turn to gambling, especially when there's nothing else to do apart from watch your football. So they think, we just put a wee bet on here and there. And I think that it can be very consuming for people without them even realising. And because of that, it can take quite a bad effect on their mental health, and it's something they can kind of get sucked into. But I think that it's important to encourage people to speak up if they feel they are going down that hole. And I think that more people will be able to relate to them than they think, especially if you just talk to your friends, say, look, I'm not feeling great, this is the kind of situation I'm in. They'll probably be able to relate to you, and it's not anything to be ashamed of. I don't think.
Definitely.
Absolutely not. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
It's an interesting subject because, in a way, I'm no stranger to it myself. I've never ever said I've got a gambling addiction, but I do like a bet. I'm not going to lie, but I've always got to the stage where the famous phrase I've always been told is only gamble what you can afford to lose, and it's always stuck with me, that phrase, because I would never ever put myself in a serious situation over that. I do like doing it, and I know I'm sometimes obviously we do the show, the kind of horse racing show, where we're basically giving bets to people, and at times, you do feel as if you're leading people down a path, but again, it's like it's a difficult situation for me, because I know that there's a few of my friends who have been in serious trouble with gambling, and I've always been kind of watching them. I've watched a couple of them not be able to stop about it, and it's been horrible. It was a real eye opener. I always used to think I could never ever watch a game of football without putting a bet on. See, lately, I can't remember last time, honestly, I've sat and watched a game of football and had a bet on, because it's not the end of the world yet. But the worst thing you can do is chase it. That's what I find. Exactly. I know a lot of people who have maybe lost £100 in a roulette machine or something like that, and they've tried so hard to get it back and they just lose more. And it just, you can see it having an effect on them. But I think the kind of governments and bookmakers and people like that, etc., they are doing a lot more to kind of realise it as a serious problem. And they are maybe not doing it well yet, but they are trying their best, I think, to get, because it's a serious situation. Like it is. I mean, people lose their families over it. I've seen friends of mine losing their families, friends of mine losing their houses and things like that. it's a horrible situation, and at times I do feel like I should be doing more about it from a friend perspective. And getting on here, obviously I've started doing the show about horse racing and things like that, and love doing it, but it's mainly people will think it's a show where we'll give bets out. It's a show where we talk about a hobby mainly, where we do that as a kind of wee side thing, and we always put the wee logo as well, like Be Gamble Aware. It's a website where you can, if you're in that, if you're feeling struggling about gambling, you can go on that website and they will kind of explain the way to do it. And it's a very tough situation for me, because I know a few people who've been badly affected by it, and I've always promised myself I would never ever get into a serious situation with that. Do like having a bet from time to time, but again, it's the sort of thing that you only gamble what you afford to lose. I've always said that.
I feel like it's still such a taboo subject though. Like, I feel there's obviously the stigma around men's mental health and men not wanting to talk to each other, but I do think recently that's became like less stigmatized. Like, men are more likely to open up, and I know that Isaac has concerns over like the wider impact that gambling has just now during lockdown. Like,
it's interesting.
Obviously, people turn to it just now out of boredom, like I've said. But I think that, I don't know if you've seen, but there's been some boys making like Twitter accounts to message other boys to like, look, are you okay? We're just checking in on you, as like an anonymous thing. And I think that's actually great, because I feel, unless I obviously can't talk for men because I'm a female, but unless you're asked, I feel like you're less likely to open up. I don't know
I felt that myself. I felt like was an interesting. We've got a couple of questions about kind of men's mental health, and it's interesting. I'm keen to get your thoughts on that as well, but I know I've got a kind of view myself. But see, with the gambling as well, I know a lot of people have touched on this with me. Every time they watch a game of football, every advert is about gambling, and
that's true.
It's I get the reason why they do it, but people are tempted by it, and it's not great. I've always said that you do it. I mean, putting a Gamble Aware logo. I know we do it, but it's not enough. Like, there should be more, and it's a real subject that needs talked about more. And I mean, I know there was a guy on the telly the other day, and it was interesting because he was on talking about the race, and he talked about I think he'd stole something like 25,000 from his dad or something. Took it to Cheltenham, lost it that day, and didn't go home for something like 3 weeks or something because of it.
Oh my goodness.
And you're just thinking how does that go through your mind that that's a good idea? And it's probably not the best thing to say, but surely, like, common sense prevails in that regard. And, like, it was just a horrible story, and God bless the guy's recovering now. And I think he has said, like, this, he just thinks at that time it's just the worst time of his life, and it's really interesting. I mean, it's really kind of powerful to hear people with the experiences tell their story, because it's like 3 years after it happened or something. He said I had to talk about it because it was eating me up, and it was eating him up in his mind. It was really powerful to hear him talk about it.
I think that it's also the social aspect of gambling as well. Like, I know Isaac will go on PlayStation 3 o'clock on a Saturday to talk about the scores, and they'll all watch it together and they'll discuss, and there's like, oh, I've got this bet on, what have you got on? And it's, if you don't have a bet on, it's almost like you're excluded from that. And I feel like, I know, like, a lot of groups of boys, that's what they look forward to, is like discussing each other or totally like ripping the piss at each other for a silly bet. And I think it's a shame that if, for example, you know you have an addiction and you don't want to miss out on that, but at the same time it's having such a detrimental effect on your mental health, it's such a tough decision to make, because you don't want to speak to your friends about it because you feel like that's the little group that you've got going on, but then you don't want to keep going because it's like you said, it's eating you up. So I think there definitely needs to be something that's more accessible for, like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but I know what I'm trying to say. Do you know that way? I just think it's so difficult for people to speak up. But I think that obviously the more people that speak up, the easier it'll be for others as well.
Yeah, definitely. I remember a story as well, getting into going into the bookies near my old house, and it was really, really weird. I went in to put a bet on, and there was about 6 or 7 of my pals in the bookies in separate places, and it was the first I'd seen them for about 3 or 4 months, and I just thought that just shows that we're all kind of the same thing. And it was probably probably a terrible thing looking back, thinking that's the only place where I know looking back, I know a lot of my pals, myself included, I'm not going to lie, would look forward to a Saturday at 3 more than anything else in the week. And
because
now
there's nothing else to look forward to.
Yeah,
do you know that way?
Definitely. And you wouldn't be feeling yourself if you didn't have a bet on. But now, kind of looking back, I think I've kind of realised that it's not the be all and end all as far as I'm concerned, and I've tried my very best and to only do it when I want to, and when I feel like I don't put. I know a lot of people I know put real big stakes on. I've never ever been one for that, but yeah, it's good having an interest in, but again, it's money. Money can be more important. Money can go to a lot of other things more important than that. But it's a really interesting subject, and it's one I'm really pleased you brought up, because it does need talked about. We've got a couple of questions here, and I've got a couple for yourself, Jen, from Angela Rowe. Just a second. What would Jen say is the best way to support someone who's struggling with their mental health during these times?
I would say I know it's difficult, but try and be as active as possible.
Yeah.
Try and get outside, try and get a nice wee walk in, connect with nature, even if it's pouring, just try and get outside for 20 minutes, keep busy. There's loads of YouTube videos on little workouts you can do, or you spend time with family if you can. I know my family, we all sit in separate rooms at night because we want to watch something different, but see, even once a week, try and plan something where you can all sit and watch something together and discuss it. And I think, although if you're feeling terrible and it's the last thing you want to do is you want to sit on your own, you don't want to sit with anyone, if you force yourself, I can guarantee that you will feel so much better after that.
Yeah. Myself and my partner, we went through something really horrible during the summer, and it was interesting because usually in those kind of situations I would be the first person to kind of block myself away, but see, having been able to just spending time with Laura was just amazing. Like, she just it got us through a terrible time, just spending a bit of time with each other, and it's brought us a lot closer. But see, if we didn't spend that time with each other, and you can drift apart from people just by bottling up, and I felt so much better being honest about it and getting it out, because it was interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this as well before we move on to the question. You mentioned in your video about intrusive thoughts, and I think it is one of the most interesting things to talk about, because it is such an important thing. There's how many times will you bottle things up in your mind and it will stay there, and it will make your mind just do somersaults, as I say. It will just make you feel worse. Do you kind of go along with that? What's your kind of thoughts on that?
So I go through phases where I'll bottle up and phases where I'm spitting everything out. I know deep down that if I don't talk about it straight away, as soon as it comes into my head, that it'll snowball. And that it'll just become a huge problem that I physically could not function. So for example, say I have a silly thought about something I don't know, I can't even think of an example, right? But I'll sit and I'll worry about it, and I'll stew over it, and it'll become massive, and it'll get to the point that I can't do anything. I will literally be paralysed, sitting worrying about this situation. And I always go by the saying that a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah.
So myself and Isaac, he's told me that whenever I worry about something, tell him straight away.
Yeah.
And he will be my kind of rational brain. He will tell me it straight, and that's amazing. That helps me so much, that he can be right, look, sit down, let's talk through this. And it helps me see it from a better perspective rather than being totally shut inside this box, overwhelmed. Do you know that way?
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more with that. Angela Rose asked another question. Is there anything Jen thinks could help young people in small communities, any individual or group support specifically?
I mean, I think it's pretty difficult just now with restrictions, but I feel maybe when things get a little bit easier in terms of restrictions, communities could maybe set up, I don't know, like a walking group where you could get paired off with somebody roughly your same age or similar interest, and you have a route and you could all walk together, and then that way you're kind of, especially for people who are maybe a wee bit lonely or they're like an only child or for any age really, and you've got that to look forward to, and you're meeting new people and you're socialising without even having to force yourself, do you know, that way. Or even you could do a community quiz where everyone signs up and then there's a quiz and you join in, do it on Zoom, and then that way that's keeping everyone together as well and giving something, like people something to look forward to.
Yeah. I was probably a couple of weeks after I went through a kind of tough time myself and my partner. I just went down to meet one of my pals, and I'd said to him, I just want to get away, I just want to get away for a wee while and just get a road. He says, well, I'm going to a walking club, come with me. And I was like, walking club, what's that all about? He says, we just go a walk. And there was about 3 guys on it, maybe over 75, right? And they were the three of the nicest guys I've ever met, but just the stories, and see at the end of it, I forgot about what was bothering me. See, just like them telling stories to me and me kind of having a laugh with them. It was so calming, and it made me, it genuinely, at the time I was like thinking, what am I doing here? And then at the end it was like, that was probably one of the best things I could have done, just to get away. And it was
absolutely
such a relief. Another couple of questions. How do you think young children have coped during the various lockdowns with regards to their sports, football training, karate, gymnastics, etc.?
How do I think they've coped?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
I think with the stop-start, it would have been tough for a lot of people, but it's hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's hard for young children. I think a lot of them, I know there's a couple I know that really don't have an idea just what's going on. And
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I'll be playing a lot in their mind. What do you kind of think as well?
I think that it's difficult. I think young kids need a routine. And I think that when they don't have that, it can be very confusing for them. And I think sports is so important for young kids to socialise and gain new skills and just keep them active. And I think if they don't have that as like when they're young, so this massive break, they might totally lose interest. And when they can go back and think, oh, I can't be bothered, mum, don't want to do it. And then growing up, they'll be like, oh, I don't need it, like, can't be bothered. Whereas if they've had that, if they didn't have the break in it and it was continued, they'd have been more likely to stick at it. I mean, I know my brother, he's 16 and he loves his football, but all the Zoom stuff, he's just like,
yeah, I know.
Like he's not enjoying it as much. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Going out and going to your training and having a laugh with the rest of the boys and that way.
Yeah, I know. But Isaac as well will probably feel the same as me. I know we've spoken to a lot of people who've been affected with the football stopping from an adult's perspective, and they say that the money's not anything to them. It's getting out there and getting out playing doing what they love. That's what it is, and that kind of struck with me as well, because a lot of people hang off footballers just want to play football for a few quid in their pocket. It's to get out there. They love it. They've been doing it since they were young, and it was interesting. A lot of people that's been on here have said that, just how much it means to them just to get out and kick a ball, and how much it clears their head for what's going on in their job, what's going on in their family life. Like that. It's always kind of stuck with me after that. Another question: do you think social media plays a huge part in mental health? I think it's a massive taboo, but I'm keen to get your thoughts on that.
Absolutely does play a massive part. Talking from experience myself, I know that if I'm having a bad day, I'll just pick up my phone and I'll scroll because I can't bother doing anything, and then I just make myself feel worse because I'll see things that I don't want to see, and I don't understand why it happens, but it just does. But if you having a bad day and you take a break from your phone, it clears your head. And I don't know if it's to do with, so for example, Twitter, you have so many different opinions floating about everywhere that it's just overwhelming. And then I think it's a strange one. And I also think that Instagram, for example, plays a huge part in mental health. It's showing you false realities. It's the highlights from people's lives, and it makes it look like that like, so for example, people are they're dressing up for their walk and they're getting a picture and they're posting it because that's what they're enjoying doing. However, other people are seeing that and they're thinking that's how they're going to look every single day, every single minute. And it's like, why do I not look like that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, that way?
Mm-hmm.
And it can really make you feel quite down about yourself, I think. I mean, myself included. By that, I compare myself to absolutely every single person I see, and my friends are like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I'm like, can't help it.
Yeah. Social media for me is I know social media is a kind of very important part in what I'm trying to do, but sometimes you can look at it and just be like, why am I on here? I know it's when you open, like, I know I've found it interesting lately, but we've obviously been doing subjects about people in the football world and things like that, and you ask the question, like, and some of the responses you get are absolutely like crazy, like just tearing somebody to shreds. And at times sometimes you'll agree with it, sometimes you'll think it's just way over the score, but it shows you just how it can be a really, really nasty place. And it's
absolutely,
sometimes it's a great, like, it's a great source to have, and sometimes it can just be the worst place to be. But another interesting question: what advice would you give to someone in a male-dominated environment on how to be confident in sharing their stress and worries with others without worrying how they will be told to man up or feel that they are not being taken seriously? I know I found that really difficult. I know that's a really big thing as well. Have you kind of felt things like that as well, like for your perspective?
For me personally, I think I've been so used to talking out since I was young that I kind of don't really think twice about it. But I do know that for males, it's a totally different ball game, because there was this whole, like, the whole stigma about, oh, just man up, like, men don't cry, like. But I do think now that if a male was to speak up, they would be taken so much more seriously because of all the kind of advertising and people speaking out. And I think that if you are not feeling so great and you do want to speak up, find someone that you trust and just say, look, I'm not feeling so good. If you want to speak about it, say to them, look, can we maybe talk? I feel like I need someone to speak to. And I think 90% of the time they will be absolutely open to talking to you. They're not going to shut you down. And I know it's hard to get over those worries, but taking that step, you'll feel so much better after, knowing that you've got somebody to talk to.
Yeah, I know it was interesting for me because, like, I lost my mum in 2014. It wasn't until late 2018 that I finally admitted I really need to talk to somebody about this. And it was that thought as well, like, if I go and say to somebody, I'm feeling this way, will I be told, you're a man? You know what I mean? Like, and I never ever, I kind of bottled it up for so long, and eventually said to, I can't remember, I think I just said it to one of my pals. I was like, listen, I don't feel good. I've not dealt with this the way the way that I probably should have. And it was well as that. It was 4.5 years after it happened, and I thought to myself, it's been long enough. It's been long enough, and people think, oh, what's, like, that happened so long ago. Why is he bringing it up now? And that's what I was like. I was like, what's the point in bringing it up and making everybody else feel worse? And eventually I just said to myself, I need to talk to somebody here, because it's bottling up inside's the worst thing to do. And eventually see when you tell somebody how you feel, it's one of the best feels you can get, because you feel as if this weight's been lifted from you. Would you go on with that?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been worrying about something, say for example 4.5 years, as soon as you open up, just the weight off your shoulders, definitely. And knowing you've got somebody you can go to in future. Like, I know Isaac is horrendous at talking about his feelings.
Yeah. Oh, I'm still terrible at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he'll admit that. He will say, no, I don't like talking, but he's definitely got better since me and him have been going out, because I encourage him. Like, I literally say, look, come on, you can talk to me. I was like, you don't have to tell me details, just say to me, I'm not feeling so good today. Yeah. And then that way I know, and it makes me feel better that I know that he's not feeling so good, and I can be more sensitive about it.
Yeah, no, we just get a final question here about I've grew up in a football atmosphere all my life, and I always feel a football dressing room is the worst place to be. Why do you think that is? I just think it's like the last one. I just think it's like the last one as well. Like, it's people, if you're surrounded by men, like I used to be when I was young, getting into football dressing rooms, you would be like, it would be the cruelest place to be in at times. And if you
Testosterone.
yeah, exactly, definitely. And if you'd come out and said, well, I'm not feeling good about my mental health, it's horrible to say, but you probably get laughed at for it, and it's such a horrible thing to think about. Like the fact, I mean, I know a couple of my pals have lost. Well, I know a couple of people have lost people lately due to situations like this, where they felt that they can't talk to somebody, and it's horrible looking at it from that perspective. That if they'd spoke up, would it have changed? Do you know what I mean? It's just a strange situation.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things. It's how do you feel like kind of going forward about things like that? Like, would you think the next steps?
In terms of football, or
in terms of just everything, like just everything we've covered, like what do you think the kind of next steps for making it a more kind of subject that needs covered?
I think obviously on a wider scope is the funding for the NHS. Like, see, the waiting list for that is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I got marked as urgent when I went to the NHS. So my waiting time was honestly only about 3 weeks, which I was so lucky for. But I know for others that it's like over a year.
Yeah.
And that's just it's not good enough. And it's not necessarily the doctor's fault, it's the funding, and there needs to be, this all comes down to politics and the government and stuff, there needs to be that kind of funding. But I do think that, for example, smaller communities, they could maybe try and set something up that people from that community have access to, or for example, your football teams, could they maybe have like a drop-in session if somebody's not feeling great, that they can go and talk to that person, and then that way that they know. I know Isaac's team, there's a few of the boys that are in a group chat, and they all help each other out if one of them's not feeling great, which I think's so good. Like, they'll go walks, they'll meet up with them, they'll have like a PlayStation night, and I think that's so good that they do that with each other. They all look out for each other, and I think that's really great. But I know that there maybe still is the kind of the dressing room effect where
it's always
a
been
slagging
there.
match.
Yeah. It's always been there.
I mean, I'm not saying don't slag your pals, because I know it's a good laugh and that can happen, but I think that you just need to be maybe more aware, or check in, just to make sure, like, check in on your closest friend in the team and make sure they're okay. Do you know that, especially with everything that's going on just now.
Definitely. But I just want to say as well, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on the show for this episode. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you've found it enjoyable as well.
I've really enjoyed myself. Thanks.
I just want to say as well, I wrote this down for the first episode. I just wanted to write this down. Like, at SM Media, we're open to everyone and understand how hard it is to talk about how you're feeling. There's days I can wake up feeling brilliant. There's days I can wake up feeling terrible, and you do. I know it's probably the same for you. There's days where you just don't want to get out of bed, isn't there?
I had one last week.
Yeah, it's as well as the situations we're in as well. There's no right or wrong way to deal with how you're feeling, and it's totally fair to feel down, and it's so important. I'm sure you'll agree. It's now more than ever where we're kind of stuck in these bubbles, not constantly. It's important to talk to people outside and tell them, talk to them about how they're feeling and things like that. I know you'll be the same as me, kind of checking up on people often about how they're feeling.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to say that it's okay to have your days where you don't feel good. Like, don't beat yourself up, like, why am I feeling like this? Because I know I do that. It's like, I've been feeling so good, why am I having a bad day? It's normal. Your moods are going to go up and down, like, especially with lockdown, everything's heightened just now. Your happiness is away up here, and then as soon as you have a slight blip, you're just going to go down like that. And
definitely,
it's totally okay to experience loads of emotions.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to finish this last point. Anyone who wants to talk to either myself, and I'm sure Jen will be the same, anyone that just wants to talk 24/7, just please open up, reach out. DMs are always open. It's been a real privilege to sit down with Jen and talk about our kind of thoughts and feelings of things that have happened in the past. And I know it's good for me as well to get it out in the open, because I'm not the best at talking and getting out in an open platform. I really I'm kind of like that. Just as well as that, like, thanks very much indeed, Jen, for coming on. It's been really good to hear your story and how you've kind of dealt with it. It's been really kind of inspirational, and I'm sure we'll all be keeping out and keeping checking out the videos and things like that. It's been really enjoyable, and just thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks for having
An
me.
absolute pleasure.
Good.
But thanks very much to everyone who's checked out the show. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure Jen does as well. We'll be back with more episodes in the future, but I just want to say as well, like, if you are ever anybody's in any need to talk, then please just reach out to us and we will answer. We will be there for you 24/7. But thanks very much everyone for listening and checking the show out, and please stay tuned. Cheers.